everyone for coming. Would you please rise? Pastor Tyler Kelso of Christ Chapel is going to lead us in the invocation and the pledge. Pastor.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for today. And Lord, we thank you for the city. God, we thank you for our mayor, Lord, for all the city leaders and servants who make this community so great. Father, we know that in your word, in Proverbs chapter 8, you tell us that it's by wisdom that our leaders make rules that are just. And so, God, we want to ask for your wisdom to be here tonight. Would our leaders follow your wisdom, Lord, so that our community can prosper and thrive, and there be safety and well-being for everyone, God. Lord, I want to pray a special prayer for our police officers and fire workers, Lord, just as they serve our community so well. Would you watch over them as they watch over us? Give them energy and encouragement in our community, God. We love you. Would you be with this meeting tonight? It's in your son's name we pray.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Quorum.
Yes, sir.
Crystal.
Councilman Contreras present, Councilman Gilliam present, Councilman Runenbaum present, Councilman Crummell present, and Mayor Pro Tem Young present.
Thank you. This time, our first item of business is to approve the city council meeting minutes of May 14th, 2024. If you've had a chance to review those, do we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the City Council regular meeting minutes dated May 14th, 2024.
Second. Go ahead.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Next item, discussion, take action to accept the presentations from staff regarding the 2022 street projects. We have a few people who would like to speak on this. First one would be Mr. Chris Voorhees. Would you state your name and address? And you have 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. I am Cliff Voorhees. I live at 116 Sam Bass Road. And first of all, I want to start off with when I was in here 2 weeks ago, I got some action on the drainage ditches, and that was awesome. I was glad to see somebody come out and trim the ditches and get them mowed down. So it was much nicer. Okay, I appreciate that. And the contractors also came and raked out a lot of the ditches and got more rocks out and made it more, I think, easier maybe for the future that we might be able to mow. Unfortunately, it rained today, if anybody noticed, and all the work that they done, the water come down, took out everything that they did. So I appreciate they trying to do something, but I think they're going to have to come up with something to keep it from eroding, because the grass isn't growing in the ditch, and the seeding that they put in is gone because of all the rain. So just food for thought. Thursday, Sam Bass, I noticed they cut out a piece of the road. For everybody's safety, there was no flagger out there. They had just a couple cones, and it was right at the stop sign, so you couldn't get around and then stop at the stop sign, so everybody had to be on the honor system, and sometimes people are not very honorable on that. So just kind of wondering if that was last Thursday, or it could have been Friday, but it's still there. I'm not sure how long it takes to cure, but nobody's picked up the cones. They're still there. If somebody could look into that. The surveyor was out when they decided to widen the road, and they put all these stakes, and they all have nice little pink flags on them. Who's responsible? I know you're not going to answer me, but I just want to know who's responsible for picking them up, and sometimes the flags that the utility companies come out. Most of those have been picked up by the lawnmower blades. So I was just kind of wondering on the drainage issue from Sam Bass to Stagecoach. I was hoping somebody would just kind of give me an idea that, yes, I got this, we're going to address it, And again, I just want to bring it up to see if somebody will call me back and just give me an idea. Yes, we're looking into it, or no, we haven't gotten that far yet. The walking trails at the park, it's amazing. I really enjoy that. I go down there and do that. My question is, when the tree limbs break or the trees fall, all the leftovers are being pushed into the water, and I don't know who's responsible for that, if it's Wilkes Brothers or a contractor, but I would think they would want to keep that out of the water system. I just want to really see where, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Eric Hoops, please.
Yes, Mayor Moss, thank you. Before we get started, I have a question just on procedure, if you don't mind. I understood with this being an agenda item today that we would have the opportunity to hear staff comments and then have an opportunity to interact with the council. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay, so is this 3 minutes going into that time that we would have to interact with the council?
You can make your statement in 3 minutes, and then afterwards, we'll have interaction.
Okay, very good, sir. If you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to hand you a couple copies of the petition. So thank you for your time. First of all, Mayor Moss, I appreciate the opportunity to finally meet you. Mr. Grimes, pleasure to meet you as well. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you for being here, council members. So my name's Colonel Eric Hoops. I live at 41 Crown Road. I'm probably the newest resident here in Willow Park. We moved here on short notice, DCS by the military in summer last year. And we were in such a rush to get the kids in a good school district, find a place to call home. We had to do a lot of things virtually, and I understand that the road was being constructed at the time that we did make a decision to purchase our house. I did my due diligence as best I could. I called Gretchen and asked her what the end state of this road was going to be. I asked her what the speed limit was going to be, if it was going to be striped, if it was going to be paved, if we could park in front of our homes. And the answer that she gave me before we made the decision to purchase our home was, yes, it will be, you can park in the road in front of your home. The speed limit's going to be 30 miles an hour. It's going to be a quiet residential street, is what we were told. That heavily influenced our decision to purchase this property ultimately. And then now what we've seen as we have moved in and the construction is nearing, one day Lines showed up and I got woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning by Willow Park Police Department with his lights flashing, telling me I need to move my truck before I get a ticket. That was pleasant. Woke all the neighbors up. Again, I understand the police are just doing their job. The road in front of our homes, we live in Crown Road Estates. It's a neighborhood. The road in front of our homes has turned into a superhighway. We've seen speeds clocked at 85 miles an hour. I've got kids there. I intend to raise my kids in this home through completion of their school. Our neighbors have kids out there. It's a serious safety hazard. We can't walk down the street without speeding cars nearly missing us. It's dangerous. Our ditches, I saw pictures of what we had in place before the construction happened. We had beautiful Bermuda. All our neighbors did. There was a ton of investment into those easements by our property owners. And what has been replaced at the completion, it's dirt. It nowhere matches the investment that our property owners put in. And then finally, not necessarily affecting me per se, but on behalf of the homeowners here and the property owners, a lot of people are affected with their driveway widths. Our homes and property owners, our homes and properties were in place far earlier than this construction project. And there was a way of life that they came to know. And I urge the city council, really keep your eye on the ball of what we're trying to do here with this project. It's not just a project to complete, it's to do right by our property owners and our investors in the city. I thank you for your time. Look forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Marsh Warehousen, if I messed that up.
Mayor, Marsh Weirshausen, he actually submitted written comments. He will not be here in person.
Okay, thank you. Dixie Smith, please.
3520 Ranch House Road, Dixie Smith. Thank you for mowing the bar ditches. That was wonderful. We've enjoyed it, and it's my understanding that that's now included in the city's maintenance contract going forward, so I hope I'm correct about that. Now I would ask that you would please replace the rocky sludge that's in the ditch. That has, the topsoil is gone. I don't know if it washed away. It couldn't have in our ditch because we get very little drainage in our ditch. We're at the very top of the hill. So we certainly didn't need the extreme deep bar ditch that is there now unless we were to have 40 days and 40 nights of some kind of biblical deluge. Because even with the heavy rain we've been having, we go out and check the ditch to see if anything is draining down through it. And at the very most, there might be the tiniest little trickle of water. Most of the water seems to come from Crown. Very little water drains into Teresa's tank that we have a special drain gun going under Ranch House now. So it was totally unnecessary. And as a result, I don't have access to my frontage on Ranch House. I'd like that returned so that we could have drive on to our property access like we always did in the past. I don't have a driveway on Ranch House because our driveway is on Cedar Elm, and I'd like some kind of access onto the frontage of our property. We have 410 feet there, and now we can't get onto the frontage of the property. And then I'd also ask that you do something to lower the speeding. There's a lot more speeding, and I watch pedestrians walking up and down the street every day with their pets or children, baby carriages, and I know, I'm fully aware of the speeding vehicles that are going up and down that road, and it's worrisome. And then I would also ask that you put signage to just remind people to please not litter, because the ditch is filling up with soda pop cans and bags and all kinds of different trash that we would always have picked up in the past, but now it's harder to get down in that ditch and get it. So anything we can do to minimize that would be much appreciated. And I guess that's basically all I had to say today, except for thanks again for mowing the bar ditches after our last meeting. Appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Ms. Teresa Palmer. Are you speaking for Ms. Sandy Young also? Okay, that's fine.
I don't have my glasses, so I'm going to give it a try, okay? I'm glad that some of the neighbors came back, because a lot of them that left last time told me they would not be back here because they don't think the city will help them. So let's prove them wrong. So that's why some of us are back here, and by golly, we're going to do this. We do appreciate the mowing, and I messaged the mayor. Thank you very much for mowing that. It was fantastic in front of the houses. And a lot of the different neighbors let me know that theirs got mowed too, so everybody appreciated that. I called the city of Weatherford to ask them when the elections were for the city council here in Willow Park. They told me that no one's running against any of y'all. I found that very interesting, but that tells me how very hard your job is to be city councilman, to be here, how much we really appreciate that. Like I said, I've been here 32 years, and I've been asked to run, and I'm like, no way. Never have, ever since I've been here, because it's so hard to do the job that y'all do, and we know that. So when the construction was going on, I've since learned if you went out there and you stood there and watched those guys put the road and fix the road, you got your road back like you had it. So my neighbors did that. Some of them did that. One of them across the street, she went and stood there and watched them and said, nope, that's not big enough. Nope, that's not big enough. They did hers exactly like she had it. And again, I'm sorry it's repeating, but you can see I had 27, 29 feet. I now have 12 feet. That's all I've got. And I put a picture in there too of my llamas because we had to get them sheared yesterday. And the lady said, what the heck happened to your property? Where is your drive? I couldn't hardly get my truck in here to come shear these llamas. I said, yes, ma'am, we're working on that. So that's a picture of my llamas that she was working on yesterday. So during the construction, I have 3 sons. The youngest one, the 31-year-old, came over and met with me and the engineer from the company that was hired, and Gretchen. And he stood there and talked with us, and then a couple days later, he called the engineer back, and he asked, what are y'all going to do? And the engineer really didn't have an answer. And so my son told the engineer, well, there's only one way to make my mother go away, one way. You give her back what you took away from her, and you will make my mother go away. Otherwise, she's going to be here. So I am laser focused on recovering my loss of my value of my property, just like some of the neighbors. I really appreciate some of them came back, not all of them, but some of them came back. And basically, Colonel Eric and I have committed to each other that we are going to continue to come to every meeting that we can and focus on the 3 goals: the speeding, the ditches, and everything else. We'll be here every time. That's what we've committed to. Now I'm going to Sandy, is that right?
Pardon?
Go to Sandy's?
Okay.
Okay, hers is quick. Okay, Sandy is over 80 years old, and I went to her house and took pictures for her. Her husband passed away. She's working on the construction of the house that she's hired to do that. I learned about her from, I think it's the Brackens that live across the street. The 2 attorneys told me about her. So she called me, and she's worried as she comes to kind of check on her property about the emergency, the police and the ambulance getting in and out of her property. As you can see, the picture of hers, I was shocked. So she's got this ditches that go like this and like this, and her mailbox was knocked over, and they put it back, but she said initially when they put it back, it was like 2 foot tall. So they came and built it back, but it's facing the wrong way. So she's over 80 and she can't get down. She can't drive like I do. I drive and I just pick up my mail. It's great. I grab it when I come in. But she called me and asked me to come speak for her because she's so upset about everything. And she can't drive by and get her mail. And she can't toddle down the hill to those the way that mailbox is fixed. Somebody needs to fix it for her because she can't get to her mailbox. So she asked me to help her and come talk about it, and I took pictures for her. So that's for Sandy, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Brad McCurley?
Brad McCurley, 109 Trinity Drive, the guy that also offered his pool 2 weeks ago. Want to, again, just thank you for giving us the opportunity to come speak to you. Mayor, this may seem small, but received a card from you, a note from you in the mail. I know it's a small thing, but just want to tell you how much my family appreciated you taking the time to do that. And I've talked to several other homeowners that also got a card from you, so thank you. I really just want to repeat kind of what I shared last time, just kind of reinforce it. So about a year ago, actually, it was the week of Colonial, is when one of our approaches got torn up. Before that, we kind of heard this was going to be happening, and it had been communicated to several homeowners that the size and the shape would not change in the sense of getting smaller, but we would at least have the same size and shape that we had. And so after it was done, we noticed that, several of us noticed that our driveway shapes changed. Some of us had a Y-shaped, and then mine went more like this. Now, it still shoots out really far, but we've lost a lot in here, which if you're driving a vehicle, this part is really important. Out here is not as much. And so we'd noticed that. And so what we've seen in communicating with the city was, hey, you need to come to city council, which is what I did 2 weeks ago, to communicate where we're at. So that's kind of what I'm doing again today is, like many of them homeowners, we're just bringing what we've seen and heard. I have noticed, though, because I walk kind of the city a whole lot, I've noticed specifically on Trinity Court, there's probably about 11 homes in there. In the last month, the city has gone back and added about a foot on both sides of the approaches. So about 7 homes in there on Trinity Court. So we'll say about 70 to 80% of the homes they've widened their approach for some reason. And then on Sam Bass Court, they've added approaches on the side of about 4 homes. So I've talked to one homeowner, they had no idea why it was added, but they're thankful for it, so that's great. So I'm here just to ask that the city would bring back or put back what we initially had. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Francis Horsch. Thank you.
I hope I got all the council members and the mayor. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, thank you for your service to our city and for all that you do. Chief Franklin and Chief Snyder, thank you for your service and risking your lives on a daily basis to protect and keep us safe, and for your families that endeavor to support you. My name is Frances Horch, and I reside at 901 Sam Bass Court. I have been a Willow Park citizen and homeowner for 31 years. I love my city and I love my home. Over the years, we have spent a great deal of time and money in making improvements and maintaining our property. We were extremely grateful when the city announced that the severely damaged roads in our subdivision were going to be replaced. Pre-construction, we were very happy with our easement, specifically the good condition of both the concrete aggregate easement sidewalk and the driveway that had a minimal crack, and the fact that our easement did not have any drainage problems. I was initially told by XIT that they could remove and replace the concrete aggregate driveway to match the city with city approval. However, Jacob Martin and the city said it could not be matched because it would be too expensive and it would be a hit and miss. As a result, we decided to keep our driveway and sidewalk after Jacob Martin verified that it did not need to be removed and replaced, without knowing that there could be damages sustained because we were never told. At this time, I am reaching out to you, Mayor Moss, and the members of the City Council, to report and seek your assistance to repair, per city ordinance, our property easement damages sustained during the removal and replacement of the road, which I have provided a list for your review. The city damaged our property easement. I was never asked to sign a liability waiver, never told that there could or would be damages to the property easement. We respectfully request that the damages be repaired like other homeowners' damages are being repaired by XIT at the direction of the city administration, because our damages are being ignored. In my opinion, the city administration to sign off on the road construction project before all the homeowners' damages are repaired and completed would be unjust and show unequal treatment on the administration's part. I have extensive documentation of photos that show my property easement before, during, and after the road removal and replacement. I also have an extensive paper trail of emails to the administration that discuss and report the damages, with 2 of the most recent emails I am providing you that I've had no response. I have submitted photos to them, not only by emails, but in person. I also had my communications via phone and with meetings on my property easement. Even so, there has been no resolution to repairing the damages per city ordinance of put it back the way it was or make it better, which is why I seek your assistance in this matter, Mayor and members of the City Council, for the city to direct XIT to repair the damages to my property easement per city ordinance. Thank you very much for your time and assistance in this matter.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Mr. Roy Ramos, please.
Hello, my name is Roy Ramos, and I live at 101 Trinity Drive here in Willow Park. And just want to give an update, very similar to what everyone else has mentioned, concerning the bar ditch in front of my home. Last week, workers from XIT came and smoothed over the deep ruts in the bar ditch. Thank you very much. After the heavy rains this morning, the ruts have rematerialized. Due to the rain potential washing out the dirt, I had to place my trash can further to the street. I was concerned that if I did, it was going to fall into the bar ditch. And this is not a far-fetched concern. One of my neighbors had that happen. If not for the Republic Trash employees getting the trash out of their bar ditch, they would have had a mess to clean up. Now, I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on TV. And I do realize that it's probably not possible to rewrite the contract that was written up with XIT. And I know the city attorney's not here, but I don't see why it's so far-fetched to want to hold them to the agreement. And if the agreement was, put the driveway approaches the way they were, you got them. Make them put the driveways. See, guys, I'm not asking the city to go out on a limb and spend more money on this project. You shouldn't have to. This money should come out of XIT's pocket. They're the ones that signed an agreement with you folks on our behalf. You're the stewards of this city. XIT is your contractor of choice. It's not my job, like some of the neighbors, and my hat's off to them. I think they did a great job to go out there and point out what they're doing and that it's wrong and they need to correct it. They should know what they're doing and correct it. I shouldn't have to be the one to tell them. I shouldn't have to be here. My question to you folks, and I hope it gets answered during the answer session. Has anyone here taken a walking tour of our neighborhoods? Besides pictures, we can provide you pictures every 2 weeks, because that's what's going to happen if you want. My printer's overheating, but we can do it. But I know some of you folks here on this council, when you were running for elections back then, came by my house, asked for my vote, asked to put up one of your signs. I'd love to see you come to my house and take a look at what we're talking about. Shouldn't have to depend on these pictures. Willow Park's not that big. It's not Fort Worth. It's down the street. I got here in about 3 minutes, and I wasn't asleep. I got here in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Beverly Sykes.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Beverly Sykes, my husband Bobby and I live at 72 Crown Road in Willow Park. Here. We've been here for 26 years. We've owned the property for 30 years. The first meeting that we went to regarding the improvements on our road, we were assured at that meeting that before any work was done on the approaches of our property, that we were going to have a discussion about it before anything was done. We never had a discussion. And I don't know of anybody here that lives on our road had a discussion about what they were going to do on the frontage of our property. So as you can imagine, when they started digging out those ditches that are this deep on our road, that we were concerned. When they set our approach up, first of all, we pull trailers in and out of our property all the time. We pull trailers. So when they set the approach up, we knew it didn't look right. Called Gretchen. Gretchen was no help. Sorry, but she was no help. So they poured it. And I couldn't get my car in our driveway, in our approach to go to our house. So luckily we had another gate onto our property, which the Gaswell company uses, and that's how we had to use. We had to drive across our property in between pecan trees to get to our road, to get to our house. And that went on for About 2 months. Okay, so after they poured that, then, after they finally came out, they dug it up, and they report another entry. This entry is so deep, the ditches on each side, and there's no curbing on it, which I had called Gretchen and asked her to put curbing on it, and no, they weren't going to do that. Well, I almost ran off in the ditch the other day on our riding lawnmower, because our entry, there's about this much room to mow, and I can barely get up to it with my lawnmower. And if I wasn't careful, guess what? I'd go right off. Very dangerous, very dangerous. And can I say one more thing about the speed on our road? I was standing out there day before yesterday, Friday.
Hold on.
A bus came down our road,
Thank
and
you.
it was going 55 to 60 miles an hour. It was a school bus. That is just unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all your comments. I live in the city, and I'm as concerned as what you all are for your property, for your driveways, for the speed. We're working on the speed, and that's my frustration, I think, with the city. Things move so slow. But I can promise you, we're going to do what we can to make it right. Will everybody be happy? Maybe not. But I promise you, the city's going to do everything we can to put everything back the way it was. I can promise you that. So with that said, Mr. Grimes.
Yes. Gretchen, do you want to go first, or you want Nick to go first? You're up.
It's all hers.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Before we dive into this agenda item, I wanted to give Council a little background information of where we were a couple years ago and where we are now. The city updated its Capital Improvements Plan, CIP, in 2022. Streets were a big component of that plan. An evaluation was made of the condition of each city street and improvements recommended based on the type of street, traffic volume, condition, and community input. Local residential streets that saw lower traffic volumes were reconstructed, while arterials with heavier traffic volumes and loads warranted more expensive concrete paving. We are currently in the project closeout phase, and XIT is finishing up the punch list items. A couple weeks ago, May 14th, the City Council received a signed petition from residents of Willow Park regarding remedies for road safety and property damage. The key elements of that petition included speeding on Crown Road, narrow drive approaches, ditch slopes, and landscaping damages. City staff was tasked with exploring these issues and presenting ideas for a resolution. The 2022 Street Improvements Project consisted of removing and replacing approximately 36,500 square yards of existing asphalt pavement with concrete paving and replacing approximately 18,600 square yards of asphalt pavement with 2 inches of hot mix asphaltic concrete pavement. The project also included roadside ditch grading, driveway replacement, and new bike lanes. The streets that were included in the 2022 Street Improvements Project were Crown, Ranch House, Kingsgate, Sam Bass Road, Sam Bass Court, Trinity Court, Trinity Drive, Old Ford, Crested Butte Court, Rich Haven, and Pleasant Court. These streets that were included in that project were the year one or priority one streets in our street CIP. When the city decided to do this project, there were three critical things that the project had to deliver. One, a new improved road. Two, an improved drainage system. And last but not least, reduced infrastructure costs. As I mentioned earlier, our street improvements project is close to completion. Several Willow Park residents have expressed concerns regarding the project. Residents are concerned about the side slopes of the roadside ditches, the width of their drive approaches, damages to their landscaping, and speeding on the newly paved roads. On the roadside ditch grading and slope, our plans call for all slopes to be 3-to-1, and for the ditches and culverts to be designed to convey the design storm. Several residents have stated that the roadside ditches are too steep and cannot be mowed. The city, are going to ensure that the 3-to-1 ratio is met. Regarding
questions as we go through this?
Yes, we can.
So on the 3-to-1 ratio, so 3 feet rise to every 1 foot width, or what are we looking at there? Or is it the other way around?
Yes, 3 feet horizontal to 1 foot vertical.
Okay. So are we meeting that, or what have you measured?
So we've reviewed the plans, and there are a couple of areas where this could not be achieved. But however, by and large, it is possible to get the 3-to-1 slopes. And those bar ditches were designed to convey the design storm. So there's a cross-section that needed to be followed for it to be able to convey that runoff.
And that 3-to-1 all has to remain within the easement?
Within the right-of-way,
Within the right-of-way, excuse me.
So we've regraded those bar ditches, and yes, within the city right-of-way.
In the places where it's not obtainable, is that because the city has run out of right-of-way and they have to go to steeper grade in those spaces?
The right-of-way through there varies, if I'm not mistaken. There's areas where we've got more right-of-way on one side of the road. There's less on the other side. We had to shift the road a little because of the right-of-way. So grading the bar ditches was a challenge, but because we just had that right-of-way area to work with. And we needed a cross-section. We needed to design those bar ditches to handle not the 5, not the 25, but the 100-year storm, which is our design criteria.
So if I understand this correctly, the 100-year storm requirement plus the topography for the runoff is going to dictate the size of the pipe
It'll
going under
dictate
each
the
street.
cross-section and the way that bar
And
ditch
so
is
the
designed.
size of the pipe and the amount of concrete is going to dictate how deep the trench is, and the right-of-way is going to dictate where we can do it.
How much area,
Okay,
yes.
so it's all pretty much straightforward math, okay?
Yes. And, you know, that the improved drainage system, the purpose of that was to protect property from damage and inconvenience caused by flooding and drainage problems. And I think we've achieved that goal.
Gretchen, so the last the last time we had something of a 5 to 25 year rain pour flood was 1819?
I don't know when we had the last.
I think that's when, well, she wasn't here at the time, but I'm thinking from that time where we had multiple residents down here at city council telling us about how the runoff was going into their houses,
Yes.
their front yards, and this is what spurred the whole project. So make sure everybody had a full background on that one.
Okay, so moving on. Drive approaches. Okay. On
So
the
first-
drive, yes,
Okay, so first of all the drive approaches at least 11 foot wide,
at least 12 foot wide.
12 foot wide?
Yes. All the drive approaches that were reconstructed on Crown Road and Ranch House Road were at least 12 foot wide. And several of our residents are concerned that the drive approaches are too narrow.
So on that note, so I've got a driveway that's 11 foot wide with a 2-foot drop off on one side and 1 foot on the other. It's been that way for 40 years and we've not had a problem. I backed 6-foot trailers, I backed 12-foot trailers. We've had construction contractors, we've had box trucks. There's never been a problem with an 11-foot wide driveway on my drive, so. And it's street here, house down here, same as on Crown, it comes down, so.
Now, if we were to widen the driveways on Crown Road an additional 2 feet, like all driveways on Crown Road, an additional 2 feet, the estimated cost to do that is $144,000. If we were to widen the driveways an additional 4 feet, the cost is $192,000.
And that's just on Crown, right?
That's just on Crown, yes, and that's widening all approaches.
Not right now, no.
Okay.
Jim, do you feel like in getting XIT, Jacob Martin to do your quality assurance, have we met the design standards?
We
that
have, on drive
The
approaches.
way
we
they
have.
were, so it's, we have some argument from some citizens about whether the design was correct, and whether design was correct for what they had before, but that is what the design was, so the contractor has met the requirements of what the design standards were.
Yes.
So we do feel that. So to Greg's point, I would just offer and say, we've elevated that road. We absolutely, the speed has been increased on that road, no matter what we try to do. By making a concrete wider road, it has become a different road. That I think the driveway approaches that were there before might not be sufficient for the road that there is there now.
I don't agree with that because it's a wider road. Yes, there's a lot of cars going down it, but there's plenty of room. I mean, I'm on a
Except
narrower
cars are
street.
going.
You don't live on that road.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Well, excuse him.
Hey, no outburst. Thank you.
What I see when we redid Ranch House, when those speeds get higher, it's more difficult for a resident to turn into the existing driveway. So we can't control the speeds of every citizen in not just Willow Park, but Parker County that's going down those roads. So that's my only point, Greg, is that we have changed the nature of this road. And if we designed those driveway approaches to replace what was there before, that might not be sufficient for what we have now on the road because the road has changed. So I'm offering that thought and
I
opinion
understand.
from an engineering standard. But I wanted to make sure XIT has met the standard that we told them to meet.
Yes.
That was how it was designed,
That's- yeah.
whether our design standard was correct or not, XIT has met it. We may need to change our design standard, but we can discuss whether that's.
Or slow the speed down with speed bumps.
Or both.
Just to be clear, just to clarify, the 12-foot was our subdivision standard, correct?
11.
11.
That was.
But we went to 12,
yes.
right?
Driveway, residential driveway width, measured at the property line.
Okay.
That's what our subdivision ordinance requires.
Okay.
Yes. And all the driveways on Crown and Ranch House were constructed to at least 12 foot wide. So we've met or exceeded the city's design criteria for residential driveways. Regarding the vegetative cover for the ditches, the hydromulch seating in the specs calls for Bermuda and Bahia grass. And several residents have stated that the vegetation is different from their cultivated landscapes. So we have a cost comparison between hydromulch, sod, and concrete riprap along the roadside ditch for discussion purposes. If we were to hydromulch the city right-of-way along Crown Road, the estimated cost for that is $17,000. If we were to sod, the estimated cost is $145,725
Was that for Ranch House or
for Crown.
Crown? Okay. Thank you.
So sod on Crown, $145,725. Sod on Ranch House is $134,625. That would be sod. Hydromulching is cheaper. So Crown, hydromulching, $17,000. And I have cost estimate here for, do I? No, I don't. I think it was 15,000 something for Ranch House hydromulch. Okay.
Do you want discussion on the?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's all.
I think one thing we've seen is while the volume of the rain has not come close to design storms, the frequency of these rains, because our contractor was so delayed, they basically bumped themselves into the rainiest spring that they could possibly see. And everything they've attempted to do has to be redone. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes when you live the life of a contractor and rain. So I personally look at hydromulch is the best option, hydromulch with Bermuda. I'm not a fan of the Bahia grass. I don't know that it's, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and argue about design standards of grasses because I don't think anybody wants to do that. But I don't know that it's not only not what was there before, but I don't think it's as successful in our summer months. And I think it may have stabilized the slopes enough to get us to potentially hydromulching with Bermuda. So I would favor that we go back. It may have to be done more than once if we get these rains and have these. And for anyone who doesn't know, I live on a street where I'm looking at this in my slope too. I see all of this wash away after they fix it and rake it and vegetate it, and it's gone when the rains. So I think that's just something we have to look at whether it's letting them out of the contract and continuing it with a new contract. I think we need to be diligent about getting the hydromulch down until Bermuda is established on these slopes. I think that the Bahia created a very difficult spring growing situation that I don't want to see that grass again. So, personally, so that would be my favor, is that we need to find a way either to hold XIT to that hydromulch until it's established. If it washes off, you got to go back and redo it. And that's what I think we need to do. That's not, I think the cost of sod is not warranted. I also think getting sod to establish at this point is going to be difficult too. So hydromulch, if it has to be done more than once, might be our best option. You know, it may take multiple times. We may get some areas to grow and only have to hydromulch others, steeper slopes. So that would be my just general thoughts on hydromulch, which I know everyone wanted those thoughts.
Okay, just make a note of that. All right, go ahead, Gretchen. You may.
Can I, on that as well, if we're getting into the landscaping aspect, we're talking about also then the landscaping with the maintenance as well, or is that going to be you want to?
I'll address that here in a second.
Okay, let's do that then.
Okay. Anything else?
You mean, are you done, Gretchen?
Well, we have traffic calming.
Speeding would be,
Speeding with Chief Franklin. So I can
Okay.
answer that question now, or we can get to we can discuss speeding and then we can talk about all of it as one
All right, let's go,
Sure, that's fine.
let's go speeding. Chief Franklin.
So you should have received the traffic surveys that we did. We completed 2 traffic surveys. We put our trailer that counts cars in 2 different locations on Crown. The 2 locations were approximately about a month that the trailers were sitting. For 28 days, we averaged 620 cars on that road. 620 cars, that's going both directions. Out of the cars that were on that road, the 85th percentile speed of the cars on that road was 38 miles an hour. So basically, 85% of the cars are either going 38 or lower. So it's not that many over, but they are over the posted speed limit of 30 miles an hour. So the 85th percentile is 38. So it is basically over the speed. There is the anomaly of a couple cars, the highest speed was, I think, was 85, and then the maximum speed, or the average speed of over the speed threshold, which I set the speed threshold at 40. So the percentage of cars that were over 40 miles an hour in a total combined coming in, going away from the machine was 9%. So they are speeding, they are over the 30, but they're not as bad as it seems. I mean, there are some that are going 80, there's some that's going 70, but it's not as many as it sounds. When the road was made concrete, before there was no way you was going to speed on that road. You had to bump yourself right off the ditch. The concrete road now has made that road basically a major artery for the city. There's a lot of traffic up and down the road. And to address the parking, Texas law does not allow you to park on a residential street that is considered a major road. Basically, same thing as Ranch House. You can't park on the side of Ranch House. It's a residential street, but you can't park on the side of it because it's a major artery. Being 600 cars a day on Crown makes it a major road. So you can't park on the side of Crown Road anymore. It is residential, but you can't park on that side of the road anymore. So that is the reason the officers are addressing the road, people parking on the side of the road, because it's now determined by the number of cars. It's now a major road in the city. So I've given you different options of neighborhood traffic calming area for that area. There is a lot in there. Obviously, they're not all going to pertain or have anything to do with that road. So the Federal Highway Administration basically says that if there's an issue of speeding on the roadway, then the design needs to be taken into effect, and there may be things that you need to do to calm the traffic. Different types of ways to do it is the speed bumps, speed humps, roundabouts, other stuff that doesn't pertain to that roadway. The only 2 things that would pertain to that road would be speed bumps and speed humps. Speed bumps would not pertain. Speed bumps are mainly used in parking lots. It's a high bump on the road, and it's got a steep, and if you hit it going more than 10 miles an hour, you're probably going to damage your car. Speed humps they're lower to the ground. They have more of an incline, and then it flattens on the top and then it drops. Speed humps would be more applicable to that area just because of the number of traffic coming through. I have spoken to fire department, spoken to EMS. They have both said basically do not put speed bumps because they will tear up their apparatuses. Speed humps they're okay with. They would prefer that we don't put speed humps at all, but they basically said if we have to, if it's something that we need to do to calm the traffic down, then they can get over the humps. So speed humps, according to the federal traffic, has a rate of slowing down emergency response to 3 to 5 seconds. If it is that's on fire trucks. If it's a loaded ambulance, the emergency response delay is 10 seconds. That being because if it's a loaded ambulance, if they hit it too fast, they bump the gurney in the back of the ambulance, so they have to go over slower. So if it's not loaded, then it's going to be the same as the fire trucks. It's a 3 to 5 second delay on speed humps. I don't believe that any other traffic calming tools that were in your packet would apply to this area. It's not something that could be put in. I think the only option at this time would be speed humps.
So back when we first started talking about this in 2018, 2019, about paving major thoroughfares, so we identified Ranch House, Kingsgate, Squaw Creek, Sand Bass, and Crown as major thoroughfares at that time, and they needed to be, that's why they were first on the list. So they've always been major thoroughfares. I mean, you get from north side of the city to the south side, Micus Road, by way of Crown, that's always been there, and that's always been a major thoroughfare. So to say that, you know, we've changed the neighborhood street to a thoroughfare is, in my opinion, inaccurate.
I think you improved the street, which, to Chief's point, I think Chief made the point, that before the improvements, it was potholes. I mean, you could, especially toward the top of that hill.
All the streets were.
And when you put the concrete down, you certainly.
You open up.
You opened it up, yes, sir.
All right, I understand. So, but to think that we never had thoroughfares in this city, I think is inaccurate. We always had these streets. They've always been the main used streets. The traffic has always used them. So to say that we've suddenly changed them from a residential street to a thoroughfare, I think is not accurate, in my opinion.
Well, it's still a residential street. It's a through, I'm not saying it wasn't a thoroughfare before. I'm saying now it's more traveled. There's more traffic on the road now. It's always been a thoroughfare, just like you're saying. It's always been the quick way to get from one side of town to the other way. Yes, that hasn't changed. I'm just saying that now it's more traffic on that.
Right. Well, and we never had any traffic studies before now, though.
We have not. But when I came here, that road was pretty bad.
Right.
And nobody traveled it. I mean, they did.
Well, they had to come from somewhere. I mean, you got the north end of the city at Ranch House and Crown. They had to go somewhere. I'm not sure where.
Chief, do you have a suggestion as to the number of speed humps on Crown?
I do not have a suggestion. You're going to need at least 2, possibly 3, just to get it to. Because once you come over.
Is that on each lane?
It would be across the whole road.
Oh, across the whole
Speed hump
road.
would go from one side to the other side, would not block the bicycle lanes. So it would basically go from line to line, bicycle lanes need to stay open. But the way the road is designed and the hill, you can't put a speed bump on the hill, because if you come over the hill and you're not ready for it, then it can cause damage to vehicles. So they have to be placed to where they can be seen from a certain amount of distance.
Would, I guess once they're down, they're permanent, or can they be moved?
It's asphalt, so
Okay.
they'll be made out of asphalt, so if something happens, then they can be removed.
Okay.
So, and this could be a Nick question, not my understanding is that you'd put the speed humps and attempting to get a traffic speed of 30.
Yes.
That's the frequency and the height and all of that would be designed to take it down to a comfortable 30 mile per hour pace down that. So essentially, we'd be not interfering with our 85% that are doing about 38 or less. That traffic, we'd be calming the speeds of those outliers, which is what we need.
Right. Once you determine what your 85th percentile is, the calming measures are to try to get close to that 85th percentile for everybody, just to make it to the 100th percentile. So even if you get 38 or below, even with the speed humps, you've accomplished more than not going 85.
Well, coming down the hill till it levels out, you could probably do with 1, couldn't you? Or do you need 2?
It would need 2 at least for the traffic going both directions.
Okay.
So a minimum of 2, and the third one could be determined. It would not be. We just need to look at it and see.
I'm thinking that's a design standard that Jacob Martin would give us that.
Okay.
How close they need to be.
Yes.
The design, so.
Okay. Any other questions for Chief?
Were there any other measures that you felt were necessary, but you feel like the speed humps will?
The only other option that we could have is just to enforce it with speed, having the officers enforce it. Unfortunately, there's only certain areas that we can sit, and then when there's the calls and everything to come through, the officers may not be able to be there, so it's not a permanent fix, it's just a temporary fix.
Okay.
What about putting a permanent traffic monitoring sign that flashes up the traffic speed and
Well, it didn't.
we record that?
So our trailer that we put out that monitors the speeds and collects the data, flashes the sign, flashes the speed.
Yeah.
And it didn't slow them down.
It went out?
It did not slow them down.
No, I'm not sure it'll slow them down, but at least if we have the sign there and it's, showing the speed and we are collecting data on a consistent basis, going forward. I don't know how expensive that would be, but,
The signs are not cheap, and I don't think it would be a fix. It's just, it's not an issue of them knowing what the speed is. I mean, it's definitely marked on that road. There's plenty of speed
I know, yeah.
signs. I don't think it's an issue of them knowing the speed or knowing how fast they're going. I think that just, especially when you come down the hill, it's easy to speed. I think we have to have something to slow them down.
Okay, any other questions for the chief?
Thank you, sir.
Can we get the same thing on Sandbass? We've got the exact same issues.
We will look at Sam Bass. Thank you.
Did we do a study on Sandbass when we put the trailer out, pre-construction? I know we did it pre, did we do it post?
I'm going to have to find the numbers on what they were. Off the top of my head, I don't know what they are.
And speed limit sign.
Thank you. Mr. Grimes?
First of all, just quick math, that's about 17,000 cars in a 28-day period. Okay, that's all traffic. Let me kind of collect my thoughts here for a second. So, in about an hour from 2 weeks ago, and roughly 35 minutes of discussion today, there are two things that stick out to me outside of what's already been stated, and I'll get back in a second. One, the street's in really good condition. It's a concrete road, it's accessible, it's better than it was. Two, probably most notable, we have not received any drainage complaints, like either on Crown or Ranch House or Sandbass or any other location. I drove Crown this morning at 8:30 during a downpour, and the water was flowing through the ditch just as it was designed to do. Drove Sandbass. I'm not familiar with who lives there, nor am I familiar with the house address. It is the white house that just got painted white, because I do live over there in y'all's neighborhood, and I do walk it every day.
124 Sandbass.
Okay.
That's my engineering.
That house, pre-drainage, we're probably putting sandbags at their front porch. I think, have we done that before, Chase?
It was our house, because that drainage wasn't there before.
The White House?
We're in the house next to
Okay.
it. 2008, it was coming up
Yeah.
into our back door.
Yeah. So there wasn't water ponding over there. It was actually going through the culvert, down the drainage ditch, as it was designed to do, and it flowed out. I went back at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Sun's out, quit raining. Drainage ditch is virtually empty, muddy, but it's empty. And so the drainage is working. And so I think and clearly we have issues that we need to address, but I think the overriding fact is this. We were charged with repairing or improving the street and correcting the drainage. Those two factors were met, and they were met to your point, standard, by design and by standard. So the issue that we're going to have is how do we, and I said this to Rick 2 weeks ago, how do we maintain the integrity of the drainage while making this thing more accessible? Just to clarify a couple of things for those of you, it was not an agenda item 2 weeks ago, so we could not interact with you. We had to just sit here and take notes and do all the things we did. What I couldn't tell you was that we had already authorized the right-of-way to be mowed, I think 10 days or 2 weeks before. But ironically, because of the rain, they couldn't get to it until I think the next day or maybe the day after. So the right-of-way is being taken care of. And I'll just jump in. Y'all feel free to just tackle me or stop me or whatever. But I think I've had this discussion with Leah, and we had this discussion before y'all even showed up. So this is maybe a month ago we talked about maintenance. the drainage ditch works, and it's our drainage utility. And so we bear responsibility for maintaining that. And so I have no problem with adding that to the mowing contract that we already do. I think that's something we should do. If you, two ways to look at it. One, we have an obligation to do it. Two, it's the only way to ensure that our drainage actually works properly. I don't think we're going to mow it every week, but I think we should start off with once a month, and then as needed on an as needed basis. If you did once a month along Crown, I think once a month for Crown, Ranch House, and Sam Bass, you're adding a total of $24,000 to the mowing contract.
For the year?
For the year.
Okay.
Well, our mowing contract goes from roughly March 1 to October 31.
Okay.
It kind of, we don't do a lot of mowing in December. So for a 6-month contract, we can do that. The reason why is it's labor intensive to do it, and so.
No, I like the idea of having the major thoroughfares, have those mowed, because it just makes the city look better. I mean, it's a significant improvement on Ranch House for sure, so.
We did it on Ranch House. I think we should continue on to Ranch House all the way to Vista. Crown, we need to do that too as well. So those are that's the low-hanging fruit. The one of the things that.
Can I ask just one question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, $24,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
Okay, project that out for how many years? 10 years?
240.
20 years?
250.
Okay, is it going to be cheaper to do that or concrete the whole thing out?
You could
Or do what?
concrete. You could concrete the whole thing for $290,000, roughly $300,000, along Crown.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, along Crown. Ranch House is a little different because, quite frankly, the ditch is not as, especially where the Colonel lives, it's not as uniform. You could put a concrete runner in front of your home from, and I don't know who lives to the north, but down that all the way to Crown Valley Estates entrance. And the issue that we had is that that would certainly solve the maintenance problem. It would solve a number of problems. I just didn't know if that would be sightly. I have emails. Apparently you guys CC me on your email chain. No one mentioned a concrete ribbon. Everybody mentioned.
Could I say something?
Yes, you're the mayor.
I think I think this is something I think we'd like to entertain for the near future for a year or two. And if things change, then we're subject to change. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is the action this council takes tonight is something that's going to get us through this year and maybe next year. But we will continue to look at the bar ditches, the grass, whatever it is. We'll continue to look at that. And does that make sense?
It does.
So what the action we're taking tonight, if we take action tonight to mow it, it's something we're going to look at doing maybe this year and next year, but we're going to continue to look at improving things or long-term doing the right thing. I hope that makes sense to everybody.
I think just to clarify, you're saying like obviously we're saying we want to add it to our mowing schedule, include it with this, and possibly 2 years or more. We just talked about the city's responsibility for upkeeping those things. And at that point, after, let's say, a 2-year time period, the city, like it would do with most of our things, reevaluates all of our mowing needs, whether we have, for everywhere across the city, not just these. We're going to look and guarantee to do these 2 years. We'll reassess. We'll see where these are growing, if our hydromulch option or whatever options are in there. It's not you got 2 years and then you're on your own. We're going to take 2 years for sure and then reassess just like a city should, correct? Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
If I can, Colonel If I could, first of all, thank you for having a couple conversations with me on the phone. I really appreciate that. Since you're kind of on Crown and you're really in communication with a lot of people on Crown, if you wouldn't mind, I would like to see if you could potentially ask the people on Crown if they would like the concrete culverts right there, the drainage, and just to see, because it makes no sense for us to really look and deeply consider these things. And we do it and everybody's mad because they want Bermuda, or vice versa. So you can follow up with me directly. I'd appreciate it. We could do that, and then that way we kind of know where everybody stands on that one. So, because, you know, on the east side of the road, it's almost all concrete. So just that west side of the road, you know, then it kind of looks identical on each side, right? So, appreciate that. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
To be fair, Gretchen did put a concrete ribbon in her presentation, but we had not, and there was plenty of comments 2 weeks ago, but we had not heard that as an option from the people that spoke. So we're prepared to do that. My personal preference is I would rather, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, I'd rather spend the money, put a concrete, because if you're going to put concrete ribbon in it, you just go ahead and do it now. It makes 0 sense to put 35,000 hydro mulch down. And if we're going to come back and concrete it, I understand if we want to let it work, but if concrete, and I don't think we're going to come to a resolution tonight on that, because I want to get feedback from the folks. But if you're going to do Crown, if you're going to put concrete down, you do it sooner rather than later. I was leaning back. I apologize. You didn't see me.
We can't open it up to everyone.
City of Weatherford.
I get all the drainage, even coming off the top of the hill, there's a drainage that runs down through the back of my property. It all comes out down there on the road by the golf course. Have y'all ever thought about where all that water's gonna go?
This is an anomaly. There's a lot of anomalies in this.
There's gonna be a pool put in that bottom down there. That's all floodplain.
Some of it is, yes, sir. So the reason we stopped where we did on Crown is because that's the end of the city. The rest of it is Weatherford's ETJ. So if you want to call it Parker County, you can call it that, but it's Weatherford's ETJ. We can get the drainage through our city limits, and then where it goes after that is Parker County or Weatherford or whomever. We've tried to work with them.
But you know what originally happened is when they put the golf course in, when your friend Jim Martin developed that drainage ditch used to go right down the bar, it's clear to the creek. And when they put the golf course in, it changed it.
Yes, sir.
Because they wanted that water running in that little pond.
Thank you, Mr. Hanley. Are we prepared tonight to take action on this subject?
I would think, tell me if I'm wrong, Brian, what we need to do is to direct staff to put together something that we can act on and how we're going to finance it. So that's what we're trying to hash out and give direction to staff.
Also on that, Ms. Mayor Pro Tem, I'd also like to kind of know, and this is with the chief as well, where exactly we think those speed humps would be, so that way people will know.
Is that a
right?
Jacob and Martin thing?
Yes.
Yeah, the easiest way to think about that is not on any vertical curve. So if the road is turning vertically, you shouldn't put a speed hump there. So the top of the hill, when it flattens out, you could probably put one on that downslope to prevent people from accelerating without actually pushing up the gas. And then one on the flat part of the very southern portion of Crown Road. And then variably in between there, where else they're needed. That's in general, that's probably where they're going to go.
When can you have that information to us?
By next council meeting. You can put one right in front of my house, 41 Crown. And then that'll be perfect. But down there where it's flat,
Thank you.
that'd be a good spot.
Thank you.
My suggestion, Mr. Mayor and council, would be this. We need staff needs direction on how to mitigate the drainage utility. Hydromulch, sod, which I would not recommend. And I'll get into that just so everybody's asking. The reason we don't want to do sod, it's going to be more than 50K. We've got to put it out to bid. So at that point, if just looking at the calendar, we're putting sod in August in North Texas. I could take the 300,000 and go to the casino and see if I can make some money and come back and put sod in the fall or the spring. So I would not recommend sod at this point. I would if you're going to do sod, I'd do a hold and wait. If you're going to do, if we're going to do a hydromulch, we go with the pure Bermuda seed, and again, this is y'all's direction, and that we go ahead and start that immediately.
I would personally rather wait. If we need to mow it between now and next council meeting, we do.
Okay.
But I'd like for the council and Mr. Grimes, we discussed this, and June 11th, we have a direct route of which way we want to go, instead of doing hydromulch or whatever. So the council, next council meeting, which will be what?
June 11th.
Pardon?
June 11th.
At the June 11th meeting, we will have a directive of which way we will have action that night.
I need to get one more issue because this is the one that came up. The approaches, they are all at least at 12 feet.
On Crown.
On Crown, are they at 12 feet on Ranch House too?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Not on Sandbass.
Not on Sandbass.
On all streets, they're at least 12.
That's not what we have.
Not
Are they 12 feet on Trinity, Sandbass, that area over there? Are they at least at 12 or is there some?
12.
Okay. We need to decide what we want to do. If you have a 14-foot driveway, we add 4 feet to it. That's an 18-foot approach. That's roughly the size of a 2-car garage.
What are you going to do to the ditch out close to it?
So if you had 2 feet to it,
So here's my problem with all this. So we've got 5 miles more of road to rebuild in this city?
you got more than that, but yes, sir.
Probably 30. And we have people that have terrible roads and sitting in front of their houses, and we're going to ask them to dish out another $100 per household, $100 per resident of that household to rebuild what's on Crown, when I don't see a problem with it right now. So we've got way too many road problems to start rebuilding something that meets the criteria and meets the spec at this time. And I think we've met the criteria, we've done what we were supposed to do, and that's it. So that's my position, because I live in an area where we have a bunch of retirees, they have roads that are beat up, and now we're gonna ask them to go pay more money to the people so that people on Crown Road can enhance their driveways and get into them easier. Unacceptable, in my opinion. Unacceptable.
I'd say this is something, I think between now and June 11th, this is something else we discuss. And Crystal, you making good notes? We're going to have a directive on the bardages.
How would you like to construct a motion?
Pardon?
How would you like to construct your motion? Do
We
direction of staff?
we don't need a motion, no.
Not to do.
We're going to, the next June 11th council meeting, we will know what we're going to do with the bardages. We'll also make a decision on what we're going to do with the driveways. That's the next two things on June 11th meeting we will decide.
I guess what I would say, I mean, respectfully, I disagree with you, Greg, but what I would say is that's an option that I'd like staff to consider. Do nothing is obviously an option, so that's what we need. I would like to hear more from staff. I would like to know, adding 2 foot to each driveway approach, that we feel the design standard was incorrect, because that's what I'm getting at, is if we've met the design standard and we feel the design standard is correct, it's adequate for getting in and out of the property the way it was. But if the change in the drainage, we feel looking at the current situation for individual driveways, we would change that design standard going forward to curbs, additional, whatever. I'd like to know whether staff recommends that or not. So that's my perspective of, do we feel we should have had a different design standard now that we recognize we've elevated that road and changed the drainage? So that would be what I'd be, that's what he wants to see staff do. That's what I'd like to see staff do.
I would agree with Leah on that, just because if we do have, approximately 30 more acres of miles, acres, sorry. Work in the land business, I'm wrong measurement there. We need to figure out if these are the standards, because this is going to be applied across the board with every project we do moving forward. So the status we set with this one should be the one that sets the precedent for everything moving forward. So that's got to be part of the discussion and consideration as well.
Can I ask a question for the CIP? I believe Crown is our last concrete road. I think Squaw Creek is in there now as an asphalt, possible concrete mix.
It should be concrete. if we
It's
can
in our
have-
CIP as asphalt, I believe. Does anybody know that? Anybody read that CIP lately? Okay. Well, I'd like that answer too. Do we have another concrete road in our future? So,
Okay, could we please have a motion to table item number 2?
Yeah, well.
Just no action?
So real quick, no action on 1.
Right.
We're moving to item 2, then I'll.
we've already done.
We've already done item.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Approve the minutes, then
No action on
direct-
item number 2.
Yeah, no action, just direct staff to come back and have it on the agenda next month.
And we will make a
Further
decision next time.
recommendations.
Yep.
Yes.
there was one thing that I think we needed to look at was, Teresa, you had mentioned Sandy is her name that you were speaking on behalf of, that her mailbox was. Yes. Yeah, so I'd like XIT to look at that.
Well, I think there's definitely some individual things that we need staff
Yeah, punch
to
list.
address individually, so.
And we have notes on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Item number 3, to adopt an ordinance amending ordinance 879-23, the original budget ordinance for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2023, and ending September 30, 2024. Mr. Grimes?
Yes, Jake was going to be here tonight. We, in preparation for the presentation today, we both decided we'd like to postpone this until the June 25th. It's not a time-sensitive or time-critical agenda item. We need some clarification from the CAD. I tried to visit with him today. Today's his first day on the job, and he's on vacation. So it'll be another week until I can visit with the CAD to get you guys some better information on the budget.
I'll make a motion that we postpone item number 3.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Any city council comments?
Appreciate all the hard work staff has put into this, resolving this, and I think the road construction has been extremely well. We've replaced a bunch of roads that 10 years ago we didn't think we were going to be able to. So appreciate all the staff's doing and council.
Anyone else?
I would just say on some of those individual items that were specific and not the major things of the mowing and the driveway approaches, if we could have staff respond to those citizens and just let them know where we stand on this.
Well, that brings me up another point. So we are seeing this cycle of back and forth between citizens and staff, and so I think we need some way to capture every issue and have it documented so that when somebody has an issue that they want looked at, they either fill out a form online or are handed a form. Here's the specific issue before staff goes out there, and then they take a look at it and they document it back that says, do we agree or do we disagree? And then if we disagree that anything should be done, then the next step is for the the property owner to come into council and explain the situation, and then we carry it forward like we did this. But it seems like there's this perpetual commotion going back and forth between property owners and staff that needs to stop. It It doesn't benefit anybody doing it that way. I think we need to capture the issues, have it public information online where anybody can see it by property address. What's the issue? What's the decision? And how are we going to address it if it needs to be addressed? So we got to have some kind of formal way of attacking all this, I think.
We've got some of these on the public comments that we'll work on. Anyone else? Good. I'm going to reiterate what I said at the start of the meeting. I'm sorry for the trouble that a lot of you've had, and all I can do is promise you we'll continue to work on this, and hopefully June 11th meeting, we will have a resolution to some or all of this. So I can promise you that. Mr. Grimes?
We have, I'm trying to figure out how to say this delicately without Pat coming through the internet beating me up. We are in negotiations with XIT to improve their performance. We may have some solutions or resolutions for you guys to consider at a later date for that. So keep that on your radar. I think I speak for everybody involved. Nobody's happy with XIT. I know the owner of the company has a very good understanding of how I feel about XIT. I think this project, we kind of joked that there's a development going on that's probably built on an Indian burial ground. I think Crown Road was probably built on an Indian burial ground at some point. It seems like anything that could go wrong has, and so certainly a learning experience. On another note, staff will be traveling to Public Funds Investment Training Act again. This will be the 12th time that I've gone. And so if anybody wants to go and be bored for 3 days, you're more than welcome to. We are going to be in luxurious Lubbock, Texas, right across the street from the greatest educational institution in the state.
Okay, your time's up. Motion to adjourn.
Wait, do we have,
Executive session?
executive session?
No.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, I made it. You're
Second.
seconding it.
Second.
Who was that second?
I think Greg had-
Sure.
All in favor? Thank you.